Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source.
Well, we're back in our hot weather again.
You've got hot weather.
Yeah, it's been kind of cold. I think it was only like 75 degrees a few days ago. Yesterday it was 80, 82. Now it's back into the 90s.
Well, we've had nothing but hot weather. It's just started to cool down now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, actually, because just before we started recording, I had a message come through on my phone. It's the phone manufacturer deciding to send me news alerts, even though I keep turning them off. It keeps wanting to send me news alerts. And it was talking about, I don't know if you've heard of the Reform Party in the UK. No,
I probably did, but
the political party. They're right wing. Their leader is halfway up up Trump's arse. But the point that I want to make, because we don't want to go into the politics of it, is that one of their politicians or whatever, one of their high rankers in the political party, has said we shouldn't be worrying about climate change. We should be just enjoying the heat. And that just made me think, what fucking planet is he living on? But what's your views around climate change anyway? Is it man-made, natural, bit of both?
well, it's happening because number one, we have too many people on the planet. They're using up the natural resources that basically keeps the earth in balance. And when we take a look at things, the more we dig and the more we take out of the earth, the more we expose certain type of elements into the air, which basically destroys the ozone. And the ozone basically kind of controls everything. And I know I was sitting there, people were kind of laughing at me when I said that there's a magna underneath the North Pole in Antarctica. And all of a sudden, about 15 years later, 20 years later, they found a magna under Antarctica and the North Pole. But it's see, the core of the Earth, again, because we keep taking things out of it like oil, minerals, and everything like that, it's allowing the heat of the center of the Earth to rise. In the last 25 years, it's actually risen almost half a mile. And it continues to because the oil protects a lot of the heat, just like our car. If we didn't have oil in our car, it overheated. So again, when we're taking all the resources from the earth itself that's there to protect us, then climate change is there.
So, why do the people that are in denial of it are just persuaded because that of biases? But the people that are doing the drilling, they
Mm-hmm.
understand the science, they know the science,
Yep.
and that it's all happening. But they live on the same planet as us. So if planet Earth suddenly becomes uninhabitable for human beings, what are they going to do?
Well, the indigenous people lived on the earth and they went 7 generations ahead. So whatever they did here, they wanted to make it better for the seventh generation. The whole concept has changed because today society is let's live for today. The hell with tomorrow. So they're going to say, well, in my lifetime, it's not going to happen. It may happen in my kid's lifetime. Well, that's their problem. So again, the mentality of people are so much off track because they're not worrying about what's going to happen the next year or so. They're only worried about What am I going to make happen tomorrow or today? So the greed basically is taking over everything, and the sensibility is disappearing. People are no longer sensible. They're no longer worried about how their kids are going to live and how their kids are going to live. They're in the now generation, rather than when the indigenous people were, they're in the seventh generation. So they always tried to make it better, the earth better, the things better. That's why they limited what they needed and then they didn't overdo it. I mean, a good example of that would be the buffalo. The tribes only took the buffalo for the food that they ate, and they wouldn't wipe out a whole herd. And when they used the buffalo, they used every part of the buffalo, even the bone, the intestines. They used to make the sewing material out of the intestines. They would basically utilize the intestines to make certain type of foods to preserve it. So they lived with nature. They lived part of nature because they knew that if all of a sudden something stopped, they would starve to death. So they tried to basically develop a real strong ecology.
Not disagreeing with anything you said there, but the people that I'm not going to mention names or companies or anything, but certain people are getting wealthy from exploiting the planet and all that,
Mhm.
but they're not stupid. Well, some of them might be, but they are aware that what the scientists are saying is true. Whilst
Mhm.
there are people who deny climate change, they're just generally people that are not that well educated or got biases. Why are the people that are really, really wealthy that are doing it all not thinking, well, my children will be fucked?
Well, let's put it this way. If we didn't have any billionaires, we would have peace on earth. The whole idea comes down to it, whereas the billionaires are not worried about tomorrow. They're only worried about how can I make more money to make my bank account go up. And they're not worried about anything else. They're only worried about, oh, look, I can make this, I can make that. And then they use that money for what? Nothing. They use it to get, to basically exploit.
Yeah, but they have children. That's the bit I'm trying to get at. For example, I know I said I wasn't going to mention names, but it'd be rude not to. Elon Musk has lots of children, apparently.
Yeah.
Does he not? Does he just not care about his children then, or what?
Well, a lot of his own children have gone against him.
All right.
And the same way when you look at even Trump now, his families, some of the family members are going against him because they realize how evil he really is. That the only reason he became president was to make billions. He's not there to save the world. He's not there to save American citizens. He's there for one thing, lining his pocket. And he's got the billionaires on his side because he's lining their pocket. So therefore, he stays in power because he has all these billionaires backing him.
Well, as I say, I don't want to stray into the politics, but just as human psychology, really, more than anything. I mentioned Elon and Trump's an obvious other one, but do they just not care about their own children then? Is that what you're
You
saying?
know, there,
Right.
I mean, how many times have you seen situations where the people who have the money buy their kids expensive gifts, thinking, well, that's how I can show my love. But they really don't care. They want those kids out of the way. They don't want to be bothered by their kids. So they give them all these little toys to get them out of sight, out of mind.
Well, that's fair enough in one way.
Yeah.
But in that case, don't have kids. I ain't got kids, or none I'm aware of. So, because I don't want to be tied down with kids. I'm too selfish that way.
Yeah. It's like I always, when they ask me, I say, when I came in this world, I came with nothing. When I leave this world, whatever I have, I take with me, and the kids are on their own. That's kind of the mentality that people have now, is that they don't worry about what's going to happen to their kids when something happens to you. That's one of the things that I worry about too. Is the whole I think, you know, are my kids going to survive after I'm gone? So I try to do everything I can to make sure that they can stand on their own 2 feet.
As I said, I don't have kids, but I try to do cause
That you don't
minimum.
know it,
Well, yeah, exactly.
right? You
I
got one
wasn't.
kid. You got one kid already, or 2 kids actually. They walk around with 4 legs.
Well, yeah, this is my fur babies. But no, what I was going to say was, even though I haven't got that worry about what's going to happen to my kids in the future and what planet they'll grow up in, I care about the planet as a whole. That
Yeah,
species disappearing. That's what concerns me. I'd like also even humanity. If we wipe ourselves out, we lose Mozart, Beethoven, and all that stuff, and it just means that the whole human experiment was a waste of time, and that's sad.
the first my first 38 nieces and nephews, plus my own kids. I worry about them. Now their kids, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. And when you look at it, I have 149 great, great, great nephews and nieces. I always threaten, I said, once I get to 200, I'm moving back to the res and I'm going to run for tribal chair.
Well, the other interesting thing is that the saying is you know more than six. I've forgotten the word I'm looking for now. Six connections away from any other person on the planet.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because as a second connection, I mean, it doesn't have to be somebody that you know well, but if you know one person, then a second connection is the people they know. So, for example, when I did my master's in film, one of the guys who was part of my cohort, David Worth, is a famous, well, reasonably famous director of photography. But he needed to go on the course to get the right piece of paper so he could teach. Well, he was the director of, I think it was Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah.
Uh,
He did one of the Clint Eastwood films, anyway, either any Which Way But Loose or the other one. So that means that I'm only two connections away from Clint Eastwood and Jean-Claude Van Damme just because I knew David Worth.
hmm
So it does make sense that you're only six connections away from any other person on the planet. And
hmm
if you thought that way, surely you would have more concern for people the other side of the world that you're never going to meet.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned too the fact that there's a lot of well-known actors now are starting to realize the serious situation that we're into. And they're actually coming out now in supporting the indigenous people philosophy. And but again, words are words, and if they don't reach the right people, then the words sometimes are useless because people don't want to hear things that basically put them at fault. It's like when I went to do a conflict resolution situation at a middle school. They were having all kinds of problems. So when I went in, before I talked to the staff, all the staff, the principal and the superintendent called me into their office and they said, "What are you going to talk about?" Well, I said, "There are issues that need to be addressed." They said, "Well, when you're there, would you do me a favor?" I said, "What?" "Would you compliment our teachers and our staff?" I looked at him, I said, "We'll see what happens." So all the staff got in there, even janitors, everybody, cleaners. And got up there and I said, well, I was asked for, when I do my talk, to make compliments on the staff. Now, would you rather hear compliments or would you rather hear about the problems that are facing this school? What do you want? Well, we want to resolve the issues. We want to hear what the problems are. I said, then this is what we're going to do. And the principal and superintendent's face just fell because I was there to resolve problems. I wasn't there to basically add to it by saying, "Oh, you're doing a good job. You're doing why am I here?" It's because number one, there have been talks of discrimination. There have been talks of people not doing their job well. So I said, what I'm here for is to discuss the issues and problems, and then we'll sit down and see if we can come up with ways that we can resolve them. Is this what you want? And that's exactly what they wanted. And that school actually, about a year later, got all kinds of compliments from the parents because now they were teaching their kids.
I think that's a bit of a modern day problem, isn't it? It's more about not upsetting people than tackling the problems. You
Yeah.
know, it's like the problem itself has to take second place to making sure that nobody's upset or offended.
Well, there's a certain way that when you approach things, like say for instance, if I start telling you what your problem is and everything, you take a couple steps backwards. But if I would say, when we look at situations and problems that people cause, what do you think some of the problems are? So what you do is you get them to identify things, and all of a sudden they say, "Hey, wait a minute, I have that problem." But they recognize it and they tell themselves they have the problem, therefore they can resolve that. So it's just an idea of how you approach situations, how you approach people to get them to start understanding that they may be the problem. It's just like I kind of laugh like when I was in an altar boy and everything. You went to confession every week, whether you need it or not. And I was saying, well, do three Hail Marys and do one Our Father, and you're forgiven. And then you go out and, well, you say the Hail Marys, say, well, okay, I'm forgiven. Okay, let me do it again. So you get resolved every time you go. You don't. Dad always told me, he said, the way you get resolved, if you do something bad, don't do it again. Then they said you have absolution. But we sit there and think that by going to a certain thing, doing certain, we're forgiven, so that gives us the right to do it again.
There's also those that don't realise they've got any faults and are, think they know absolutely everything and that on every subject and that you're wrong. So they're the kind of people that just won't listen anyway.
Yeah. There must be some things being picked up by people because when I was looking at Facebook, and there's a lot of native stuff coming out now, and there's a couple of uh, posters that they have out there. It says, "I am not a Native American Indian." But I've been saying that for a long time. First of all, we were here long before they called us Americans, and I said, and we're not going to come from India. So people are picking up on that now, but all these things that you see, indigenous people understand, but the Native American Indian and people don't understand the real teachings that we were given a long time ago that people have forgotten. Every race, or we should say every different cultures, end up doing their own thing. But they had forgotten the original laws that we were supposed to be practicing. Somewhere along the line, we started to lose it. And that is why the indigenous people, when the immigration came in here, why they were so bent on destroying the native people here is because we had the concept that connected us to our spiritual being. And when you have your spiritual being, you can't be controlled because you're being controlled by nature. You're being controlled by the creator. And they have forgotten that. And I was like, I had kind of a dream state where I thought about Jesus. In fact, Jesus wasn't his real name. Matthew, what was his real name? Do you remember? But it wasn't Jesus. And the whole idea comes down. While he was on the earth, he had thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And then because he taught love, respect, honoring nature, they crucified him. And I'm saying, well, why was he crucified? And they say, well, he died for the sins of the human beings. Did it do any good? Or even worse than when he was alive. And all of a sudden, the concept that he was teaching no longer exists because there's no money in it. That's why religion is so, every religion, when you look at the religious leaders, what do they live in? They don't live in shacks. You know, like somebody always say, Padres in Mexico, they didn't live in, in glorified mansions. They lived in huts just like anybody else. And they did teach the people. But again, when the teachings came out, other people realized how easy it was to conquer them and make them their slaves. And then all of a sudden, they were disillusioned and they went away from the original teachings.
Well, you're on about the money. The reason you're probably seeing a lot of indigenous teachings on social media is that they're probably, some will be legitimate, but a lot of them will be created by AI, because they know that you can get followings for it. It could be like farms or anything like that, but exploiting your culture to make money, and the people who are doing it are probably not even in your country.
Yeah. Yeah. AI can't go out and hand pump a cow. Can't get milk.
Not yet. No, you can't knock AI. AI is just a tool, isn't it? It's like a hammer,
Uh-huh.
a posh hammer at that. But it's what you do with it. AI used responsibly is a great tool for us. It can solve things, but the problem is human nature, and you have those evil people that are only interested in themselves, like we talked about, and they're going to use it for their own purposes.
Yeah.
Just like a homicidal maniac can use a hammer to kill somebody.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so funny when we talk about nature and everything. One one film that really hit me as a future of the earth is Superman, Kryptonite. When they were on their planet, Joel told the council, "You're taking all the resources, and you're taking so much resources that the planet's going to blow up." So what happened? They didn't listen. What happened to the planet? It blew up because they took all the resources and everything. And I wish people would understand that we're on the same track as that movie with the Earth because we're stripping the Earth of everything that it has. And we're uncovering things that the Earth has covered up. And all of a sudden, new diseases are popping up all over the place. And a lot of diseases that are man made. We're creating because of what we do. We use pesticides in order to get more food, which is unhealthy food. And but again, it's ruled by greed.
Yeah. What's the antidote to that, though? Because unfortunately, the rich control everything.
Yeah, and with a lot of the tribes actually understand a lot of this AI stuff, and they're basically gathering together now to make sure there's no AI type corporations built on their land. And I think people need to wake up because the movie, I don't know if you ever remember Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what was invented?
You know about the Cylons?
Yeah, the Cylons. What were the Cylons? AI.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't realize that, if you give certain AI intelligence, they'll end up basically controlling the world. They'll start recreating themselves, and they won't need the humans.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I kind I don't, Matthew liked the new one. I didn't kind of even like it because I really got used to the old one.
Right,
And
when
then
you
when,
say the new
yeah,
one was about 20 years ago, wasn't it? Are you on about the original with Lorne Green and Dirk Benedict?
yeah, Starbuck became a girl.
Yeah, yeah, this one's the proper one, the original.
Yeah. I've watched every one of them.
You know that I was gonna say, you know that the newer Battlestar Galactica is still part of the original. You know that, right? It's
How?
supposed to be another timeline of another life, if that makes sense. It's
Parallel
supposed to be
world.
based in the future. No, it's based in the future that we keep on repeating the same shit.
Oh, I see, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's,
that. Yeah, so this is the second time around, and when it comes to the movie.
Some people, even in the songs, some people are visionaries. You remember that one song in 2525, man is still alive. And then all of a sudden it goes, I can't remember what year, but they said, we don't need no arms, we don't need our legs. Our brain is carried in a box by a robot. All it is your head, because you don't need anything else, and a robot's carrying you around places.
I don't know the song, but I've seen films like that.
Yeah, but so many things are coming out, and I think there are some people who are waking up, which basically, but it's not fast enough.
Well, a lot of people are, but the problem is you've got the media seems to give more airtime to the wrong people because you know that I can't remember where she's from, Greta Thunberg or whatever, that girl that said you've stole my future to the United Nations or whatever. She's out there talking about climate change, but then you look on social media and people are slamming her. And mocking her for her autism, mocking her for being a girl, mocking her for not going to school and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you're up against, is that the media demonizes the people that are actually talking any sense. And a lot of people lap it up.
Look at the Secretary of War. He was a newscaster for Fox,
Was
and
he?
he's become one of the most evilest persons you've ever seen.
Once again, what's the antidote though? If all the power and the money is controlling the media and the narrative, we're, we're screwed, really, aren't we? Because we can't. What can we do?
We need a cleansing. We need a giant ark so we can put everybody that's good on it, and then that the other one gets drowned. Flood the world.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way than that, surely.
Yeah.
Education, surely. Something.
Yeah, one thing nice about if they flooded the world again, there wouldn't be no more drought.
So you don't have a solution other than wiping people out then?
Well, it's going to happen. I mean, it's been predicted. I mean, even the prophecies predict it, but other people have also predicted it. And there's going to be a cleansing that's going to be here very, very soon because something has to happen because no one's listening. How many people out there are listening to our broadcast? How many people are willing to learn who they are for free rather than going to pay somebody that they're not? They become something that they have no idea. They just said, oh, I can read in a book. This guy, this lady will teach me how to do this. Well, it doesn't do you any good. If you don't have the skill, if you don't have the techniques, then it doesn't do you any good to go and learn certain things that you can never comprehend.
But isn't that part of the life journey, finding out?
Yeah. A lot of times the people finally say just before they pass on, now I understand, and boom, they're gone.
But if that's going home, that's all you need, isn't it? That before you go, ah, that's what it was all about.
I always say that's why there's so many people. That's why there's so many people on the earth because number one, they didn't make it the first, and they all got recycled and recycled and recycled.
Yeah, I was going to say that's, you know, just before you pop your clogs, going, oh, that's what it's all about, is better than popping your clogs and going, I still don't know what the fuck's going on.
I'm waiting for, I was laughing one day when they said everybody's talking about how we're going to encounter aliens. The first time the aliens are going to come to Earth. Well, hell, the indigenous people have records showing that we met aliens a long, long time ago. They were here. They visited us. And all of a sudden, now they don't want to give credit to the indigenous people who basically were in contact with the star people. Now they're saying, oh, for the first time, the aliens are going to contact us.
Boy, that's.
What did Matthew say?
He's mumbling over there.
I said that it or destroys. Choose your choice. I'm being sarcastic. I'm being joke. I'm just joking.
Yeah, this is the point where we may lose listeners, though, because once you start talking about aliens, they start thinking that guy needs to put his tinfoil hat on.
Like those people who really want to learn. Yeah, I know you know one person, and they know one person. They need to start listening to the broadcast, and they need to start asking the questions that will help them answer their own problems, that will get them to understand their own pathway, that will lead them to a better world. But we can't make a better world just by talking it. We have to basically live it. And a lot of people out there aren't living what they're supposed to be doing. They're fantasizing with other things. I mean, rather than being satisfied with one car that'll get you from A to B, they want a Lamborghini. And then they want a Rolls Royce. They want 5 or 6 cars sitting inside their garage when all you need is one. The greed is there, and the status of owning certain things, people have gotten to the point, well, I'm important because I have a mansion. I'm important because I have 5 different cars. I'm important because I got 2 yachts. I mean, you can't use them all at the same time.
And you can't take it with you.
No. Just like when I was in England at one time, I was gathering wood that was down. And the guy says, what are you doing? I said, I'm gathering wood that's on the ground that I can use for a Mother Earth lodge. He said, well, have you got permission from the owner? I said, yeah. You talked to the owner? I said, yeah. God said it was all right. And Mother Earth gave him my blessing. I said, do you own land? Yeah. When you die, do you take it with you or do you become part of it? So I said, when you're walking on this land, you may be walking around all over your ancestors that are laying here. He just kind of looked at me and he just left. He didn't say anything else. But they don't realize that they don't own the land. And Mother Nature creates certain things, that we utilize as human beings that they give it freely because we're using for something like a Mother Earth Lodge.
Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.